Hello. What do the following people have in common? Was demoted from her job as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television? Oprah Winfrey. Fired from a newspaper for lack of imagination and having no original ideas? Walt Disney. A high school dropout whose personal struggles with drugs and poverty culminated in an unsuccessful suicide attempt? Eminem. His fiancée died. He failed in his business. He had a breakdown and was defeated in 8 elections. Abraham Lincoln. So it's one word, resilience. That's what they have in common. So resilience is often described as the ability to bounce back, but it's so much more than that. Resilience really is a combination of different things. It's emotional agility, responsiveness, it's expressiveness, connection, and it's often made manifest through our failures. The tricky part about resilience is that we often don't know how much of it we have until we're really tested and under pressure. At times when we feel our resilience is low, we tend to want to stay in our comfort zone, not take any risks, play it safe. But after a while of doing that, most of us will get a sense of something whispering or rising up inside of us, showing us that we're not really fulfilling our potential, we're not showing up for life. In this video, I'm going to show you a number of ways around building resilience, so you really can get more fulfillment and I suppose ultimately more happiness from your life. We all want to break through the barriers of anxiety or worry or self-doubt, and maybe that prevent us from reaching our potential. So a way to face that is not to ask, what should I be doing? But a deeper question is, who do I want to be? Who do I want to show up as in the world? And some of the concepts I suppose I'm going to talk about aren't measurable, but they are central to this idea of resilience that we're talking about today. So being willing to be knocked down and get up again is a core component of resilience, and that requires an element of faith that it will be possible, I suppose, to get up again. Now that can be in ourselves, it can be in a higher power, it can be in religion, it can be in spirituality, whatever we want it to be. When our hearts are broken because the person we love no longer loves us or wants to be in a relationship with us would be an example of when we really need our resilience. When we fail to get the job we've dreamed of and worked so hard for, when your child doesn't make the team or a business idea fails, I suppose we have to ask ourselves on those days, how will I respond? Who will I show up as? These are really life-defining moments. They're not the wins. They're not the days when I sail through the exams or my child is chosen for the team or I get the job or the relationship is going fantastically or I'm recognised and get a prize. Our resilience really shows up on the days when we get out of bed with a pit of fear in our stomach and we still face into our day after we've cried our hearts out, and we show up with a smile after we maybe ranted and raved about the injustice of whatever it is, and we still go ahead and do the presentation. Resilience it's not about repression, and we really need to develop it. To develop resilience, you really need to excuse me, you really need to be able to express your emotions, and in a way really it's an acceptance that we won't do things perfectly, that we're going to make mistakes, that feelings, it's a feeling that things are challenging. It's proof positive in a way that we're trying if resilience is very present in our lives. The message particularly I think for young people is that resilience and conscientiousness can be just as important to success as IQ or test scores. Barack Obama described it as not always scoring the goal but moving the ball forward, meaning that we make things better. Baby steps lead to small improvements and those add up really to success. It also means that we grow our efforts, our staying power, our refusal to give up even on the day when things look so bleak we feel maybe it's not even worth trying. Those are the days when we decide who we are, who we're showing up in the world as, who we want to be, and we're moving the ball forward. And those are the days we really build real resilience. I suppose the way to move the ball forward on those days is to know it's okay to get knocked down, to fail, to be rejected. But I suppose the most important thing though is we must refuse to stay stuck in the traps of self-doubt and self-criticism. And the way to do that is not to try and start to be all positive and paint flowers over it when something negative happens, or to numb out or to try and repress our feelings. Actually, it's the opposite. It's really to create space so that we can feel our feelings. We accept the hurt, the anger, the disappointment, or the frustration. It's not about wallowing either in those feelings or getting stuck or spiral into emotional bog. It's about having a self-compassion, really knowing this is a tough time, but also that these feelings are temporary. They will pass, and compassion towards ourselves is key in this. We understand, we're feeling disappointed, that we have a right to that, not because necessarily I failed maybe, but because I worked so hard. That feeling where we're discouraged or hurt or frustrated makes sense in that situation. It's fair enough that I'm feeling sore or hurt right now because I really cared about that person and they don't want to be in the relationship with me anymore. So it's really important that we have our own backs. We give ourselves a pat on the back for trying, for putting ourselves out there, for taking the risk. The truth is, really, I failed maybe, but because I worked so hard, that feeling where we're discouraged or hurt or frustrated makes sense in that situation. It's fair enough that I'm feeling sore or hurt right now because I really cared about that person and they don't want to be in the relationship with me anymore. So it's really important that we have our own backs. We give ourselves a pat on the back for trying, for putting ourselves out there, for taking the risk. The truth is, unless you'd made yourself vulnerable and taken a risk, you wouldn't be in the relationship. The only other option is to batten down the hatches, keep yourself hidden from life, remain alone and disconnected from other human beings. So recognizing the courage and strength it takes is really key to not allowing that inner critic to take over with the self-defeating thoughts. We have to be very careful then of the shame spiral that can follow that, and the feeling I suck, I can't do anything right, why do things like this always happen to me, what's wrong with me? Instead, I suppose you have to imagine, what would you tell your friend, your son, your daughter, your nephew or niece, or even another work colleague in the situation you're in? So we're not alone. We don't need to do this on our own. We can share how we're feeling, what we're thinking with supportive friends. And I think Brené Brown says it, shame cannot survive being spoken aloud. So it's really important to dig deep into your past and remember all the successes you've had. Remind yourself about all the people who care about you and that you care about, and stay on the solid ground with that. So deliberately really, seeking out your wins, asking your friends to remind you of them, can shore you up big time. And anyone who has got this far in life is agile and responsive and flexible and resourceful. So see how incredible you really are and what you've done, what you've accomplished. Connect with your big successes and your small ones. And be aware also of the brain's negative bias. If you look really closely, it's just a really old survival mechanism based on keeping us safe. So look for the evidence of what it tells you, because usually there is none. Finally, don't take it personally. Failure and rejection are not personal. The truth is, you're failing or getting rejected. It means you're putting yourself out there. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you, that you're broken or flawed or not good enough. When what we practice grows stronger, and having a sense of humour is part of that. So we can laugh at ourselves a bit, especially when we get annoyed, in retrospect, of course, or in hindsight, of course. We can take our hopes and our dreams and our goals seriously, but maybe be open and willing to laugh at ourselves. The reality is, when we take risks, we are either going to get the outcome that we want or the lesson that we need to learn and to take a second risk. So absolutely nothing is wasted. It's all learning. And we keep trying because we have the call of that little voice inside of us that we feel will be more fulfilled if we try again and do more and move the ball forward. Thanks for listening.